also need to check. Yeah, 5,000 slides later. Okay. Yeah. Well. Okay, good. All right, so advance, right, left. All righty, it's all yours.
Today I'm going to give you a little bit of information about the Melissa virus. Okay, the Melissa virus came out March 29th, 1999. It was a Visual Basic script type virus that was passed through an email base. Its creator, Koichibo, aka David L. Smith, created a very basic program that was very simplistic in itself. The virus ran for literally 3 days before the antivirus companies caught up with it and or shut down email servers. It went around the globe about 3 times and cost, at the time, about $1.8 billion in damages and repairs to computers. David L. Smith was considered actually old for a hacker at the time, at 30 years old. He uploaded the virus from his computer in his apartment in New Jersey, which was initially how they found him, because at the time there was no Wi-Fi, so you had to hook up through your telephone wires, so it was easier to track. He did actually plead guilty in 2002, served a 20-month sentence. Keep in mind he cost the world $1.8 billion. The reason he got such a reduced sentence is he turned state's evidence the minute they captured him, started working for the government as a hacker online, and ended up leading to the arrest of John DeWitt, aka On the Fly, who also put out a really nasty Visual Basic script, and DJ Simmons Valor. They said he had a hand in it. I couldn't actually find evidence to prove that he brought about the arrest. How the virus worked. The virus was first initialized to the internet via a compromised AOL account. He got in, he hacked somebody's AOL account, and he put out a document, list.doc. It was introduced to the internet on altsex.usenet as a list of pornographic codes, which were very popular back then. I've referenced that it's a Visual Basic script, which is why it attacked PCs, because that's the language PCs are written in. Once it got in, it went directly to the binary files. It had a command in there that would look for a code file in an H key with Melissa. If it didn't find the code, it would automatically enter itself in. At that point in time, every Microsoft file you had, considering your Outlook, was compromised. So let's get into the nitty-gritty of how it worked. Outlook. That was its main attacking point, was Outlook. It would go in once it had itself implemented, and it would take the first 50 contacts or 50 databases that you had, which could have more than one contact in them, and it would mail itself out. This would be the email that you would get. It would come from you to any one of your friends. It would have the important message in there from, say if it came from me, Melissa Gear. It would simply say, here's what you've been looking for. Don't show anyone else. And then you see the list.doc right down here. Click on that, you're all done for. If you didn't click on the file, you were safe. But nobody knew that at the time. I'll go back to that. Okay. Koichibo. I referenced that was his hacker name. The next skit is going to show you where he got his name from. Now, I know there's a big watermark through it. I do apologize for that. It was the only way I could get it, because otherwise you had to watch it in Portuguese.
Okay.
The main important thing is to listen to what they're talking about, and then I'll discuss what that's about.
Koichibo. Kwyijo. 22 points plus triple word score plus 50 points using all my letters. Game's over. I'm out of here.
Wait a minute, you little cheater. You're not going anywhere until you tell me what a Koichibo is.
Koichibo. A big, dumb, balding North American ape with no chin. And a short temper.
I'll show you a big dumb balding ape.
Uh-oh, Koichibo on the
Okay. The second part of the virus was the Koichibo code, which worked with any document files that you had, any saved PowerPoints, anything that was saved. And the nice way that it worked, we'll take today's date. Today is the 1st of December. So every hour, at 1 minute after the hour, it would insert itself into your documents. And the line would read, 22 points, triple score, 50 points for using all my letters, game's over, I'm done. And as long as you had any of them documents open every hour at 1 minute after, it would insert the code. Which got really annoying because if you didn't proofread anything, you would have never noticed it. Macs. People always say that Macs are virus friendly. You can't get any Macs. Melissa was the contrary to this. Granted, a Mac is not written in Visual Basic, but it was able to become contaminated. Any documents that it received in, whether it be PowerPoint or anything else that was already contaminated with the virus, would contaminate the Mac. If they in turn reshipped that out, then they contaminated other people. Did not work with the Outlook, so they didn't have that problem as well. I did discuss the simplistic code. Scary enough as it is, while I was doing my research, I actually came across the code itself in its entirety. It was literally 2 pages long. It took 3 days. By the time the 3 days were done, other hackers had gotten a hold of the code and had changed it. So Melissa was followed by w97/Melissa/.bg, Papa, resume, and the list goes on and on. So how did they handle it? It flooded email servers so bad that Microsoft and Intel themselves shut down their servers for days because they figured it was easier to handle in-house than to try to stop it from coming in their servers. So that was the easiest way. People actually got to the point where they physically unplugged their computers and sat and waited because you couldn't do anything. So the cleanup was easier to maintain the infection internally than it was to do it elsewhere. So we question ourselves, where was the antivirus? Antivirus at the time only did quarterly updates. You only got an update on the viruses that were out there 4 times a year. So by the time it hit, they didn't know anything about it. It had already hit and died before they had a chance to scramble and fix anything. So it caused a revolution in the antivirus, or as I like to call the boom. It made them create better protocols. Most of the time, at that time, companies had one protocol, and that was at its main entrance server, and that was it. Regular PCs, the email servers, none of those had any protection protocols or antiviruses on them. At this point in time, companies, especially Microsoft and Intel, started beefing up their system. More frequent updates. Most of us who have a good antivirus know that we get updates daily, if not hourly. That was because of this. At the time, they beefed it up to weekly. Some of the sites did beef it up to daily, but they were very small ones. And the polymorphism. Because the virus was so simplistic, they had to start coding all of the protocols and the antiviruses to start recognizing the same code, just slightly changed with its polymorphism. So they really had to rearrange the antivirus industry to be able to view stuff like this. Anybody have any questions? Yes.
I know that in recent, during your research, what's some like the latest one you've heard of? I know you hear some here on campus too, I'm guessing. So is there anything that's comparable that's hit maybe the last couple of years that you can think of that's anywhere near? I know probably nowhere near this, but
No, I did a lot of
you know?
my focusing on this because I was actually a victim
Okay.
of Melissa.bg,
Gotcha.
which the nice tricky thing with that is the Koijibo actually deleted your entire projects. And the only reason it sticks out in my mind is I had a term paper and I opened it up in class to turn it in and all it had was Koijibo in it.
Oh.
So I didn't spend too much time looking into the more
Okay.
further information. I mean, I did hit some of the newer sites
Right.
because the anniversary of it's just come around.
Okay.
So they referenced a lot of it, but
All right. Well, good presentation. Let's give her a hand. Good job. Good job. Excellent. All right. Next up. Thanks. Good job. All right. Which one is yours? Cloud? Make sure this baby's working. All right. Just gonna put that somewhere on your lapel or on it right up here. Be good. It'll work.
How do I change this?
Yeah, I'll show you real quick. I just want to make sure. Sometimes okay. The play button. Make sure it's this play button here, I believe. All right. To advance right, go back left. All right. All right. Let's give him our attention. It's all yours.
Alright, I'm doing mine on cloud computing. Alright. Okay, what is it? It's a delivery system hosted over the internet where data and applications can be stored and ran. It's made up of a bunch of servers. These servers are called server farms. They hold all customer data, or it's all stored. They're divided into three categories: infrastructure as a service, platform as a service, and software as a service. The history of it: in 1961, John McCarthy gave a speech about how computing power and applications would someday be accessed remotely. And he described this that it would be a utility, just like house bills that we pay today. A few years later, in 1966, Douglas Parkhill had the same idea as John, but due to technology needs at that time, it wasn't able to be used. It didn't come in. Cloud computing didn't come in until the 90s and early 2000s. Salesforce was the first major company. It introduced it as a business model, but not as cloud computing. They delivered enterprise software as an online service being sold as a utility. Other companies that did this was Amazon Web Service and Windows Azure. The cloud services and cloud computing. Okay, first is the cloud applications. Part of that isn't on there, but this deals with the SaaS. This is software as a service. This completes applications and focuses on end user requirements. Any applications that are remotely hosted and delivered over the internet can be seen as these. It eliminates the need for installing software on one's own computer. It runs off the servers in the cloud. The applications for this are like QuickBooks Online Accounting and Salesforce Application Suite. Next one is Cloud Platform as a service. Programmers can develop new applications or services in that cloud. It doesn't have to be a specific platform. It can be available to all users. And this also enables multi-tenant applications. Multi-tenant applications services that multiple users can access at the same time, which would be like Google Apps within the web browsers, when you open up like spreadsheet software. The next one is cloud infrastructure, IaaS. It's an on-demand cloud-based data center that provides the compute power, memory, and storage. It's your responsibility to manage it, and it's priced per hour based on the usage of resources. Types of clouds. First one is public cloud. It's external and multi-tenant, which can host individual services or collections of services over the internet. It's open to the general public, used for storing and running applications. This one's inexpensive, and the hardware applications and bandwidth costs are all covered by the provider that you use. Some would be Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, IBM's Blue Cloud. Another one is private cloud. This one's ran internally or corporate cloud as known. This also allows hosted services to limit the number of people that can be in that cloud. You got control over security, privacy, and governance. And the prices are actual prices for services and not pay for the usage like the other ones. Next one is community clouds. These clouds are shared and managed by related organizations participating in a common domain or the same market. They're managed internally or by a third party, or can be hosted internally or externally. But they don't all have the same benefits as cloud computing. Next one is a hybrid cloud. These clouds have two different types of clouds within one. Example would be private and public, or community and public together. Cloud type depends on the customer use and the processing required for that data of the customer. These linked clouds allow data and applications to flow between them. The architecture can be divided into two sections, the front end and the back end. The front end would be the computer, user, or the client. The back end is the cloud section and contains the servers and data storage systems that make up the cloud. Interclouds are interconnected global cloud of clouds. This is based on open standards to provide universal environment. This cloud also will allow companies to avoid lock-in and run workloads in an environment that best suits their needs based upon the cost, the performance, security, compliance, geography, and lengthiness of their company. Privacy. Microsoft was one of the first to use the safe harbor privacy principles. This was a framework created by the U.S. Department of Commerce and European Commissions, but Microsoft implemented it into the cloud computing. The principles are accountability, notice, collection, choice and consent, use and retention, disclosure and onward transfer, quality assurance, access, and enhanced security and monitoring enforcement. This is all used for the privacy. And security issues are privilege. These are just some security issues, but privileged user access, regulatory compliance, data location, data segregation, recovery, investigative support, long-term viability. And Trend Micro is a company that supports security for our cloud. They ensure protection wherever you are and still uses limited resources for higher performance and low operating costs. That's it. Any questions?
Do you see cloud as technology that's going to continue to advance and more likely die out?
I think it's going to get more advanced as time goes by. I think everybody will be using this by 2020.
Personally, what cloud services have you used, or are you going to use any?
I haven't used any yet, but
Google Apps or anything like that?
or Google Apps would be one for like the spreadsheet during like homework and stuff like that. But it'd be really interesting to like actually use one, maybe future use.
Seeing as you feel that cloud computing will become a regular technology, how do you see the effect and the counteraction of common computer sellers who are going to be getting put out of business if their hardware isn't being purchased?
I don't know.
Good answer. All right, let's give it a hand. Good job.
I think I pressed the pause button.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, next up, We have going Lost in Wireless. Right, we use the fancy smancy one this time. And just make sure and just point it towards the Mac whenever you advance.
Okay.
All right. Okay, let's give Juno our attention.
Hi, kids. I did mine on wireless and more descriptive, getting lost in wireless. More on the point of a personal experience. I went on vacation, and when I came back, my roommate was a complete mess because the router dumped and she couldn't get it back on. When she tried to connect to it, it kept telling her, you need your key. And she's like, what key? So I talked to a colleague, and he's like, it's easy. So I just made up a little demonstration for you guys. If you do a run command or a command prompt, and then type in ipconfig, it'll bring up all of your IP addresses. From there, if you actually right-click and select mark, it'll highlight the default, which is what you need. And then from there, you can actually go to your browser, and it'll place it inside the address. And it'll automatically bring up this screen, and it's just your password, username and password, which is a default admin. So that's high tech. From there, it'll bring up the actual site, and then you can, if you go up and select wireless, it'll bring up your actual page. And then from there, you can actually, underneath that arrow, you can disable it if you wanted to. It's got a couple different modes. But if you select the wireless security, it'll bring up your actual key. So as you can see, hers is listed on there, which she's probably happy about. And then you can also select your security mode as far as WPA2, which we had it set at personal, and then your TKIP ASE for encryption. And then you can also change your passwords too on there. And then this is one of the other access restrictions where you can actually log a time when you can disable your wireless. So if you have company, kids, you know your boyfriend has a girlfriend, whatever. But whatever you do inside there, you need to make sure you save after every prompt. Otherwise, it won't save it. And there's actually a ton of stuff on there, which I was surprised. But let's go back. And we lost it. But anyhow, if there's any questions on that site, they have a really nice spot. If we can get back to it. It says more, and if you highlight that, it'll bring up every question you want. And it'll actually explain it to you too, so that's it.
Okay, just one question. As far as ease of setup in your mind going through it, like, is it fairly easy, difficult to go through the setup process for wireless?
It was fast.
Pretty fast.
I mean, I was shocked on how fast it just popped up. I was like, whoa.
There you go.
So did it show your password on that page where you could change it, or did it have it like locked down?
It actually had it blocked out, but you can reset it.
Can you change it as well there too? If you think it's
Actually, that's one thing I'm concerned about, because if I wanted to be a smart aleck, I could go in there and change all of her settings on her. So I don't know how secure that actually is. I don't know how you secure that from other people.
Well, you have to secure the administrative password where a person couldn't get in to actually get to those settings.
Most of the newer routers coming out now, the default password, admin and password. I know Linksys is bad for that. I know Netgear is bad for that. They push change your password and change the login on your router.
Upon setup.
Setup, because don't use web anymore, because web is so easy to get through.
Right.
WPA2, the other way
That looked like a fairly new wireless router though that you were doing screenshots of.
It is, and then we also have the booster,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because I'm in the lower level of the house.
All right.
So
Well,
I
let's
get
give her a hand. Good job. Good job. All right. Microphone. Unless you're going to speak for them.
No.
All right. Next presenter, we have network management. Make sure the baby's on for you. All right, there we go. You just stick it in your pocket here. That's what I usually do.
I'm probably loud enough.
Huh?
I'll probably be loud enough.
That's all right. To advance, you just point it towards the Mac, and then that's next, previous.
I point towards it though.
Yeah, just point it somewhere towards there. That's what you gotta do. All right.
Now
All right,
you can
sir.
see
It's
what
all
it
yours.
is. Thank you. Network management. Excuse me. Described in our book as the assessment, monitoring, and maintenance of devices and connections on the network. Don't be scared. It's nothing to be afraid of. Our book talks about the 4 different fundamentals for network management. First one being fundamentals of network management, faults and performance management, access management, and change management. Today I'd like to discuss with you just change management. It's a pretty big subject, so I just like to break it down into one topic. The reason for change management is because everybody knows that their system has to run smoothly. There's always changes in technology advancements. Vendors change. They get bigger, better, faster, and users' needs change. Likely software changes will be patches, client upgrades, and application upgrades. Still, nothing to be scared of. This is a reoccurring theme. 12 general steps for upgrading your systems. If you follow these easy 12-step program, let's call it, it'll make things easier for you. It'll make things a lot more simpler if problems do happen. The first one is determine whether the change is necessary. Does it really enhance the performance of the program? Does it add functionality to it, or is it just something that would make it easier for you to enhance? Research the purpose of the change and potential effects. Should the change apply to some or all of the users? Notify administrators, help desk personnel, users, and schedule it during off hours. That's just in case something bad does happen and you have to uninstall it. You don't want to be doing it during peak hours. Back up your current system and the software that you may be changing or adding the patch to. Prevent users from accessing the software during the change. Keep the instructions handy and follow them. Like most men, I throw the destructions away and try building things myself. It doesn't always work, especially when it comes to computer software. Make the change and test the system fully. Give it a good run through like your operators will be doing during the day, or your clients will be using the software to do certain functions, maybe multiple tasking or something like that. Make sure it's going to go through the complete loop. Once you're done, if successful, enable the access again so that everybody else can use the system. Inform administrators, help desk, and users that the change is complete. And last, record the changes to the change management system. That way anybody behind you can come back around and say, okay, this is what we did. It'll help detect problems, and you'll know exactly what you changed, so they'll know how to fix it, or if it becomes a recurring thing. Be careful. Keep in mind that upgrading and patching is a good thing. It does optimize your performance, it does add functionality to your system, and like I said earlier, users' needs do change. Most patches and upgrades, though, may not be compatible with your systems, so they can also create new problems. Be prepared to reverse the changes. Still nothing to be scared about. Let's look at patches a little bit closer. A patch, the definition in the book, a patch is a correction, improvement, or enhancement to a particular piece of software or application. A patch only changes a portion of the software. It's not a replacement. It doesn't replace the whole software, it just fixes little areas in it. Problem areas and maybe security or operations. Read the description and the purpose of the patch thoroughly. Make sure it's going to fit for your needs. Sometimes the patches are just pains in the butt. Remember the steps that I gave you earlier. I highlighted a few of them here that I thought that was important. Back up the system before you install. Don't assume that it'll work flawlessly. Apply during off hours, test completely, and inform administrators, test desk, and users when you've completed it. Let's look at client upgrades. Still nothing to be scared of. Like I said, this is a recurring theme. I don't know. Kind of like the guy. Like me writing the paper, I'll pull my hair out. Anyways. A soft upgrade is a major change to the software package or existing code. A closer look, it's designed to add functionality and fix bugs. Again, read the documentation, determine whether or not it's going to be useful for you. Some upgrades may be noticed by the users, others may not. Some upgrades could change your whole desktop system so that when your users go to log on, they're not familiar with what's going on. They'll notice a big change. Other ones are a little subtler. Remember the steps again. Briefly go over them again. Back up the system. Don't assume it's going to work flawlessly. Apply during off hours. Test completely and inform your administrators, help desk, and users that the task has been completed. The last one I wanted to talk to you about is a closer look at shared application upgrades. Like client upgrades, shared upgrades modify functionality and fix problems. I'm getting dry mouth. Let's look at a closer look. They're the same as a client, but different. Shared applications affect all users at once. Take extra precautions. Determine the potential effects of what's going to happen to your system. Remember the steps again. Back up the system before installing. Don't assume it'll work flawlessly. Apply during off hours. That one's a key important one because if you have to revert back to the other one, you definitely don't want to be doing that during peak hours. It might take a little time to get rid of it. Test it completely and inform administrators, help desk, and the users that it is completed. Conclusion, patches and upgrades are a part of network management. Follow the steps outlined, the 12 steps that I've given you, or suggested to you, and document all changes. Any questions? Yes.
Out of all the steps, which one would you think is probably the one that is overlooked the most, maybe? Maybe the 12 steps that went over.
Probably the documentation.
Documentation.
Who wants to do the extra paperwork? Plus that, it keeps you more important. Job security wise.
Well, good presentation. Let's give him a hand. Good job. Good presentations tonight, everybody. Let's take that microphone. Could you hear me? Yeah, can you hear me now? I can hear you now. All right, so let's look ahead real quick. Week 15 is next week. I think I told you to